Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SaaS podcast. And today we have Andrea Tassistro with us. Andrea runs a company called Foodetective. Hey, Andrea, welcome to the show.
Hey, Upendra. Thanks very much for having me today.
All right. So let's talk about your company first, right? So, what does Foodetective do and why do customers pay you?
So our company does two things. The first one, it assembles, integrates, aggregates the entire tech stack, initially of a restaurant, today of a merchant, into a single platform. So what we do is we make operation run smoothly and automatically. And on the other side, we also improve the visibility of all our customers through our B2C platform.
Okay. So who are you primarily selling it to? Is it restaurants?
Yeah, restaurants are our targets, but we sell the platform to large companies who then resell these products to merchants and restaurants. So
Okay.
let's take an example. For example, Coca-Cola, or I don't know, in India, you have Zomato.
Mhm.
Maybe they buy licenses from us. Let's say
Yeah.
they commit to buy 10,000 licenses, and then they resell this product to their existing merchants.
And these
And
existing
so
merchants are restaurants.
usually, yeah, we started with restaurants and now we're moving away. I mean, not away, but we're moving up into new verticals. And this will or should be announced very soon.
Okay. And what sort of verticals are these? And is it an entirely different product or is it just an expansion?
No, it's just an expansion. So realizing our technology could be applied to anyone, right? It's, restaurants have this problem of having to manage a lot of different tools, but maybe a hairdresser or a garage or an insurance has the same problems. It's just different tools or different integrations. So we'll start to add more and more verticals as we speak, in order then not only to cover more business verticals, but also to increase our market size and ultimately to provide restaurants clients, so B2C people, with kind of a yellow page of everything where everything is integrated.
So what do you mean by B2C? These are still businesses, right? Or something like a restaurant, I would assume somebody who
No,
runs a
it's
practice.
you and myself.
Okay. So you
So it's end users.
okay. I'm still confused. So for example, so all of your restaurants are businesses. So if you're expanding to some other vertical, for example, maybe some lawyers or someone, they're still running practices, they still have their own business, right? So it's still a business that you're selling to. Of course, it's handled by a single person, but it's still a business, right?
Exactly. But what happens is when whatever business joins, they there's a profile created for the platform called Foodetective. Okay. Tomorrow that platform might be called differently. And you and myself, when we look for any businesses around us all around the world, we'll be able to go on that platform and have all the data aggregated also on that platform for us to interact with that business. So if that business, let's take a concrete example.
Mhm.
So let's take a restaurant, and let's say that restaurant runs on Zomato, Swiggy, Uber Eats, OpenTable, The Fork, Instagram, Facebook, Google reviews, and so on. So not only the restaurant can manage everything seamlessly, so very easily from this platform that we provide him, but on top of that, you will be able to interact with that restaurant through a portal where you can actually choose which service you want to use on its profile.
Okay. So when you say me, I as a customer, I would typically order from these restaurants, or are you talking
Exactly.
about some other use case here?
Yeah, you either order or read or book a table or pay.
Okay. Got it.
Since he has integrated everything into one single platform, now we
It's
can also provide you with, you know,
yeah.
its profile
Yeah, it's essentially an
for you
online
to.
presence for all of these restaurants, and they could like you as a customer could do anything with them, right? Whatever
Exactly,
services they
yes.
provide. Got it. So all right, so let's talk a bit about your customers that you have as of today and the revenue that you're doing. So how many restaurants do you serve as of today?
So today we have approximately 25,000 restaurants
25.
listed on the platform.
And how many of them have you directly managed to close, and how many of these are through these big agencies or whatever you call them?
So today everything is direct. Now the what we call licensing started in September,
Mhm.
but in this case we speak about millions of merchants. So if you take I don't know, if you take Uber Eats, for example, Uber Eats has 650,000 restaurants
Right.
they deliver food to, right? So it's at the very largest scale than
Got
what
it.
we do today in direct.
And
And ideally, we went after like all the biggest players in the industry and said, okay, we'll provide you with all the tools and platforms and integration you need to serve your merchants. How many do you have?
Mhm. So you're still figuring out this sort of business model, right? How do you sell to people who have
No, no.
already, you figured it out already?
So yes. So what happens is that the direct part is now fully automated and online. So
Mhm.
we've been doing a lot of direct sales for some time and have recently reduced direct sales
Okay.
and automated the entire onboarding.
Let's
Now,
come to that in a while. So I want to deep dive into that. So before that, I want to understand how much approximate revenue are you doing last month, for example? What was your
oh,
revenue
well,
last month?
I'll have to kill you if I tell you.
So ballpark range, approximately, as big as it can
Uh,
get. You can't. All right.
no.
So I want to understand like how big these deals are. Can you give me a sense of how, for example, if I'm a restaurant, how much would I typically pay you?
You would pay between 89. So you have three different layers.
Mhm.
So first layer is they're registered for free and they use some freemium tool. Second layer, they pay about between 89 and 200, and then about 1,000. This is where we also do all the marketing on their behalf.
What's the difference between the $200 plan and let's say $1,000?
It's that we will be marketing your business a lot more. Like the $200 plan is really where you manage everything on your own. The $800 plan is where we manage a lot of
Okay, so
things for you.
when you say you manage, so do you got a like huge set of people out there for literally sort of managing all this online marketing for these high value clients? Is that how it is?
No, we have automated everything.
Okay, it's still software, is it?
It is, yeah.
So essentially, you're just selling software. There's no services layer here.
There's barely no service yet.
Okay.
There is an onboarding which is slightly different, where you have one account manager who makes sure that
Mhm,
he understands everything to then push this to automation.
mhm. But
That's
post
it.
that, it's software serving those customers. That's it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and just to calculate how you're growing, right? So let an year before, right? How many restaurants did you have on board?
So we're trying to double every year.
Okay, so I can
We
assume
had
let's say 12,000 or something.
no, it was actually a bit more than that. It was I think around 18.
18. Okay,
But ideally, we would end up at 50K restaurants by December this year,
all right. So it's
and
just a
then
couple
we'll
of months
start
from now. Yeah.
tripling actually year on year. So we aim to have around 150K restaurant by the end of next year, 450 for the next 2 years, and then we double again because we,
Okay,
we
these
cannot
are
grow this
these are
way.
really really huge numbers, and I really want to deep dive into them. So so far 25,000. Most of them were direct sales that you were directly reaching out to these restaurants and closing them. So how are you doing that? So how did you find these restaurants, and how did you convert them to your customers in the first place? What growth channels have worked for you so far?
We did a lot of email automation,
Okay.
a lot of robots on social medias. So where we actually sent out a message with a self-registration button to all the prospects that we had. A lot of cold calling, PR, marketing, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of those things. So I want to pick one so that I can understand how your strategy exactly worked in this particular scenario. So which one was your best performing channel? Was it email automation? Was it social media messaging? What really worked for you? What was responsible for
I
most of this growth?
So I think it was Instagram in 2019. So it wasn't working quite the same as it is today.
Mhm.
And we had a crazy conversion rate of like 80%. I think we were sending out thousands of messages, not only through our channel, but also through different other people's channel, which was working as a referral, right? And we were kind of saying, have you heard about this platform for restaurants called Foodetective?
Okay, so on
Two restaurants.
so what was the process like on Instagram? Were you directly sort of using robots or whatever that you call it to sort of send direct
Um,
messages to your potential
no,
clients?
that in that sense, I think it was manual. So we had around 600 influencers at the time. And we were asking them to send an email to all their database of restaurants following them. And we gave them a message to send out to. And so at some point, I think it was end of 2019, you have pretty much every restaurant in Europe that received a message from an influencer saying, do you know this platform called Foodetective?
Okay, so it looks like influencers are the key part here, right? So are these your affiliates? Would you call them your affiliates? Do you pay them any cut once they sort of help you close a deal?
We did. We don't anymore.
Okay.
We did in the past, yes.
And how did you manage to sort of hire 600 influencers? That's, I wouldn't call it hire, but how did you manage to convince 600 influencers to send out a mail to their followers?
So I think there's a very strong sense of community where we said, okay, we all know the problem restaurants have, right? They have too much on their plate. They have too many platforms to manage. They have a crazy tech stack, and who here wants to help us? And very quickly, you have a lot of people that not only work with restaurants, but maybe were restaurateurs before, were like, yeah, I want to help. I want to be part of this. And this way, it's kind of the ball gets rolling. Once it's difficult to get in, but once you're in, people that actually speak to each other.
Mhm.
And so we created this database of food influencer, which we still very closely work with as of today, that helped us get the voice out.
Got it. And so what happens once your potential restaurant, lead gets this mail from one of their influencers? How do you close
Oh,
them?
we don't. They just take control of their profile, and once they have, then it's easy, right? Because you're an email away from them, or you can just simply tell them like, "There's this new feature, or we want to feature you in this guide, or whatever."
Yeah. So I'm talking more about the conversion. For example, I'm expecting all of these new sort of restaurants might just start with your free plan. Now you got to do something to sort of convince them to move them to that $200 or $800 plan, right? So what exactly are you doing there to sort of sort of move them, to a higher tier?
Oh, I think it's just a matter of having them to use the paying features. And a lot of them are on the premium plan, right? And as soon as they want to do some more, then obviously they have to pay.
So can I ask how many of these 25,000 are on one of paid plans, or is that a secret number?
Yeah, if I tell you that, I would probably reveal
The
the
revenue. That's okay. That's okay.
revenue, right? It's a smart move for you, but
It's
nice
okay. It's
try.
okay. It's okay. That doesn't matter. So I was trying to understand your conversion, right? So my point is basically, so like your highest tier is around $800 per month, right? So $10,000 ACV. So now, I mean, you could literally hire a bunch of people to sort of sort of close those leads on free tier to a higher tier plan. So are you doing something
Yeah,
like those, or is it just a bunch of email engagements?
no, no. What we try to do, and to be totally transparent with you, we still have a lot of restaurants that are on the freemium plan, right?
Yeah.
Now, what we are solving here has an issue, or has a goal, is to don't have, thousands of people reaching out on the phone to restaurants to sell them another platform. We would rather do this by automating some processes, or making the product so valuable that they have to turn to us. And this is where you start to have what we call product-led growth, where the product leads the growth of the company.
No, so product led growth. I mean, looks like you've nailed the top of funnel, right? I see you've got tons of customers coming to you right now. The question is, how are you going to convert them to your paid
Yeah, exactly.
plans. Yeah. So like,
And you do this by adding integration. You do this by featuring them for a month on something that is usually something that you should pay for. So they understand, or like they get a sense of like the value the product does for them. And then they either say, okay, I could turn this whenever I need to in order to start having my operation more smoothly, manage my deliveries very easily, increase my visibility, have more bookings, manage my procurement, and so on and so on.
sorry. So let me ask you a different question. So do you have people on your team, on your sales team, who are quota carrying and who are your closers, who are just
No,
picking those people? You don't have. Everything is just
no,
automated. You're trying to engage.
yeah,
All right.
that's the product should do that.
And why not? Was that a conscious decision?
No, if you look at different food tech companies, what usually, made their time hard is having like to manage teams of 650 employees who are very motivated when they come in and who are they hate the company when they leave, because restaurants are really hard customers, right? Maybe the hardest one.
Yeah.
And some companies have managed to do this just online, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Got
And
it.
so why not us?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's your call, right? So you mentioned something that Instagram influencer based sort of growth really worked for you a couple of years back, but you mentioned like it's not working anymore. So what's working as of today? So you've given us like some pretty high targets, right? So you're saying you're gonna grow 2x, 3x, right? You mentioned like 150K by the end of next year. So where are you gonna get all of these new restaurants from?
Oh, it's affiliate partnerships, it's licensing. It's where you become more of an infrastructure on the B2B side of existing platforms, right? So imagine Zomato buys for its entire database
Yeah.
products from us. Then ultimately you
All right.
go from
So now,
0 to
now let's focus on
100,000 restaurants.
yeah, now that makes sense. So now let's focus on this licensing model a bit. Now I believe you've got to have people who are actually talking, sort of trying to close this deal, because it's a huge deal, right? It's a really huge deal. You can't expect some automated engagement to sort of close all of these big deals, right? You can't really close a, I don't know, multi-million-dollar deal with Zomato. That's not going to be possible without a bunch of people talking to them for at
Yeah.
least
And so
few
this
months.
is where partnership managers and licensing people come into place, right? But these are very highly skilled sales professionals who do deals with these guys for 3-6 months in order to make that happen.
And how many of such folks do you have on your team as of today?
Right now we have 4, and we're just growing the team as we speak.
And what do you call them?
We call them partnership managers or light enterprise sales.
Enterprise sales. So that was the question I was trying to ask you before. So you mentioned that you don't do something like that, but it looks like you are doing it, but at a much
Yeah,
larger
yeah,
scale, just for the licensing model.
exactly. So what we don't do, so don't get me wrong here, but
Yeah.
we do sales, right? But we do very large sales.
Mhm.
We don't do call calls sales, right? We're not a call center.
Yeah.
At least not anymore.
Agreed. Got it. So all right. So did you close any such big licensing deal so far, or are you at those initial stages? Because from what I understand, right, 25,000 restaurants you've got as of today, right? Most of them were all of these direct restaurants, right? And that must have been a different journey to what you are sort of, to where you're willing to go, right? So now you want to close these
Yeah,
big
absolutely.
huge deals, right? So like what's gonna change, and do you have any initial successes? You don't have to name anything, just give us a sense of how things are changing, and did you get any initial successes there?
Yeah. So what we did is we identified the 5 largest companies and brands we could go after, like
Mhm.
who are who have the biggest merchants database out there. And it's been now more than a year and a half that we've been working on this project.
Mhm.
And we now closed, I think, 4 out of 5 of these deals.
Okay.
And once you close the deal, it's just the beginning, actually, because you need to make sure everything is ready, not only from a product point of view, but legal and compliance and supporting, who does the support, who does the payment, who does what here and there. And so it just started. So
So I want to understand.
we start to see the
So
the
looks like
initial result.
You've closed 4 out of 5, right? That's pretty great. So you already sort of know how you're gonna grow. That's pretty great. Now I want to understand, for example, like how the sales cycle look like. So onboarding somebody like them, right? And you mentioned it's been 1.5 years. So did it actually take you 1 year or something to actually close a deal?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe sometimes took actually more than that.
And what
I
happens? Yeah,
some companies, the first discussion we had wasn't exactly for that, but it took us 3 years actually.
3 years.
Yeah, the sales cycles are just nuts. And what is interesting here is that you understand at some point that all of them have all there's one thing they all want that is
Yeah.
in common. And once you have that then you can close the deal much faster. So maybe the first one took 3 years, the last one took 6 months, right?
All right, so let's pick the last one, right? So don't give me any details. I don't want any details, but I want to understand what happens during those 6 months, right? So let's say you've introduced your product. Maybe you had a demo call first during that first month. Now, what happens after that? What is taking those 6 months? Is it proof of value? Is it that they want to sort of what
No,
happens?
look, it's just that the people you're speaking with have no time. Basically, you're speaking with the C position of the largest companies in this world, and when they give you a slot, it's an hour slot, and the next slot is in a month's time. So that already takes a lot of time. And once you have their attention, I think what's interesting is that you need to prepare, let's say, your meetings and your partnership in a way that both get great value out of this, right? So they have to understand that by taking your solution on board, they're going to make either a lot more revenues on their top line or get access to much more information that maybe they don't have today and stuff like this, or like really help their user database in their daily operations. And yeah, it took us some time just to get to like a good presentation for some specific partners. And we're still at the early phase with other partners, right? So now that we've opened to anything, we need to understand what are the benefits, I don't know, for the largest um, haircut distributor in the world. Because once we know that, then we'll be able to address our solution to all the hairdressers out there.
So one question that I have here, right? So why are you sort of expanding it to new verticals? So you've still got a lot of restaurants out there, which I think like you've built your product for restaurants. Now, why
Yeah.
don't you sort of, so what's the reason behind sort of expanding it to newer verticals?
The reason behind is that maybe some partners actually don't just sell to restaurants. And so making your product available for other verticals, the deal is signed anywhere. So they just need the right tools or the right tags to just sell it to one of their clients,
Mhm.
which might not be a restaurant, but still is one of their clients.
Does it take any engineering effort from your side to whenever you end up moving to a newer vertical? Or is it more or less same?
It's more or less the same. Actually, I think a big advantage we have is we've built the platform from day one,
Mhm.
thinking of scale, right? So we we need to be able to move to anything very easily.
Mhm.
And so for us, it was really a matter of adding tags,
Yeah,
adding
got it. Yeah.
instead of saying type restaurant, you put this in our database, you put type hairdresser or garage, and automatically this goes.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. So you can easily expand to new verticals, and from product wise,
Ah,
it's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much the same. Yeah,
exactly.
got it.
Now, don't get me wrong. We won't just go like to any vertical
Yeah,
right now
that's
because it defocuses the company as a whole, but it was in our DNA since day one.
let's say a C-level executive. Let's just say he expresses interest and he sees value in your product after a couple of calls. What happens after that? What? How does the conversion look like?
To sure, it's a horrible process. You'll be speaking with another probably 10 people that all one by one validate
Mhm.
and say, okay, actually we could do this. Can we do this? Is it possible to do that if I want to do this in my department? Yes, no, yes, we can work on it, etc., etc. And then it drop everything is going, wrapping things up and you all of a sudden have a meeting with all of them, and everyone has its interest, right? So you have one guy that wants to do a specific thing and another one who wants to do another specific thing, and you have to please them all. And that's, I think, the hardest part is
Let's
of
just say,
working with
yeah. So
these
I'm trying to
guys.
understand the onboarding process. Let's just say you've done that. So what's your KPI at that point of time? What are you trying to get them to do? Is it to a POV, or is it a pilot, a paid pilot, or is it directly getting onboarded? Like what's your goal at that stage when you're trying to convince these executives?
No, it's really to. Hmm, I think it depends. When you said, like, you talked about pilots, so sometimes you have a pilot because the company process is a pilot, and
Mhm.
sometimes you have a market penetration because the company process is, okay, let's try this on this specific market. And so you actually tailor your product for them. They have the force to go to that market, they deploy it, and then they come back with feedback and say, okay, this didn't work. This we need to change. This is extremely valuable. This and this and this. Let's make the changes.
Mhm. Got it. So it's you don't really have a set playbook. You basically tailor it based on the customers and what they
Yeah,
want.
well, we have a set playbook. We have a process, right? When we go like a go-to-market process, what we call the route to market at Foodetective. But the only thing is that every partner has a different way
Yeah.
of operating, and us being, the product, we have to make sure that we manage keeping scalability, global scalability in mind,
Mhm.
can go with these guys.
All right, that's a lot of insights that I managed to sort of get out of you. So let's just try to wrap this up. So when did you start the company?
In 2000,
18.
yeah,
18. And how many folks do you have on your team as of today?
right now we're 34.
And what's the split? How many engineers?
It's a team of 12 engineers. The
And
rest
four
is
four you mentioned those closers, I would call them. And what about the rest of the folks?
the rest of the folks is operation.
Okay. Do you have any marketeers who are still focusing on those direct
Yeah,
sales?
yeah, yeah. We
Okay.
have a lot of those people who just keep on pushing on the direct sales, right? Because at the end of the day, it's more margin and more control.
True. And what's your funding status? Did you raise any money so far?
Yeah, we raised the seed, right?
Sid? And are you planning to raise anything going forward?
But yeah, we will be maybe announcing something soon.
Pretty interesting. We'll wait for the news then. All right, Andrea, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. Hope you scale your company to much greater heights.
Thank you very much, Upendra. It was a pleasure speaking with you today, and hopefully in India very soon, actually.